Welcome to Spinsters, a basketball podcast about basketball. I'm Haley O'Shaughnessy.
And I'm Jordan Liggins.
Each week, we bring in guests that range from our very best friends to former general managers to actors and directors to current and former players, or the girlies, as we like to call them.
We're talking about trade rumors and game breakdowns, yes, but also the stuff we really care about, like did Kyle Kuzma bleaching his hair actually derail his time with the Lakers?
Listen in every Tuesday and Thursday to Spinsters, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, smiles all around. The Hornets win on a Sunday evening in Atlanta to go to 2-1 on the year. Hornets are now 2-0 on the road, 0-1 at Spectrum Center. Who would have thought?
Well, this was a quality win. I think winning in San Antonio got you ready and gave you a little glimpse of what it would take to win on the road, and then you come here and you're ready to play. I'd say from the 6 minute on in that first quarter, you were the most dominant team the Hawks have faced all year.
All right, welcome Hornets fans. This is Richie, and we're here for another post-game buzz-in on Twitter Spaces following the game that just went final between Charlotte and Atlanta. It was a 126-109 victory over the Hawks, bumping the Hornets record to 2-1 and handing the Hawks their first loss of the season. We wanted to thank all of those that are joining us here this evening on Spaces, and we'll take any speaker request as the recording gets a little bit deeper. I'll be joined by Spencer and Brian, and because we have a lot to get into in a short period of time, I hope you guys are doing well. I just want to jump right into this recap. Hornets came into the game with injuries again. Obviously, LaMelo Ball is still out with an ankle injury. Martin is still out with some quad soreness. There was a new injury added to the list, and that was Rozier with another ankle injury. And I thought early on that was going to play a big factor into this game where Rozier's spacing was very noticeable, the missing aspect of that. But I would say probably, as Dell was talking about, towards that latter half of the first quarter or the final 36 minutes of play, it felt like the Hornets were able to adjust with the ball movement, with screens, with cuts, and they did a good job of pushing the pace when needed. I think the biggest thing tonight, guys, with the Hornets was the fact that they were able to get to the rim at a very high rate and collapse the defense. So they were able to negate some of their lineups that didn't have the spacing. And I wanted to start with two players, DSJ and Nick Richards, because those players, to me, were probably one of the two biggest players when it comes to impact. And also those were the players that were applying the pressure at the rim, albeit in different ways. So Dennis Smith Jr., he's been an awesome addition, very impactful player in different types of ways. Off-ball cuts. He had one early in the game where Hayward was driving baseline. And I think the biggest thing with DSJ is he's just a strong player. We saw it Friday night at the Spectrum Center where he just stripped the ball from CJ McCollum at midcourt and took it the other way. He did the same thing tonight, this time at the rim when Capella was near the basket, just took it right out of his hands. Like, you see his strength and the way that he can also get to the rim and finish through contact on and ones. He's been a guy that I've been harping on since preseason about playing time. And when LaMelo does come back, hopefully his minutes do not decrease to a point to where he's not been able to kind of show his true impact. So I know that the Hornets have been kind of in a rut for the past handful of years in terms of that backup point position. And then I won't spend too much time on Richards because I'm sure you guys will talk about him a lot, but his offensive rebounding has been the biggest asset so far, and he was definitely the player of the game. So I just wanted to lead off with DSJ and Nick Richards just seemingly not missing a shot all game. I'm not sure if he did or not.
Richards did not. He was 9 for 9 shooting from the field, game high, or at least team high, probably, I'm sure a game high, plus 25. Charlotte was with Richards on the floor tonight. And in the third quarter alone, 5 of 5 shooting for 12 points. And including a couple really nice finishes off some Teo Maledon pick and roll playmaking. So the Hornets just getting like pretty impressive ball handling juice from DSJ. You talked about the defense, Richie. He's now up to 11 stocks on the season after 4 more today. in terms of like combined blocks and steals. But James Bouknight pocket pass for Nick Richards, pick and roll finish at one point in this game. Theo Maledon, multiple pick and roll passes to Richards for him to finish at the rim. Overall, Charlotte was 24 of 39 on field goal attempts inside 4 feet in this game. So, just under 62% on good volume. And they took 9 more attempts inside the restricted area compared to the Hawks. I thought Richards did a nice job in the drop today against Trae Young. And you could see Trae Young had it working at various times. And Atlanta was, hands down at their best, I thought, when Trae was turning the corner and getting downhill in the pick and roll. But once they sort of, they stayed home on the shooters, right? So it wasn't just Trae Young flinging the ball all over the ballpark and setting up wide open threes. They stayed home. They guarded those screens, 2-on-2 with the drop. And Richards just did an awesome job, protecting the rim, blocked some shots. Had the one goaltend call, but that ended up getting overturned, justifiably so. That was on a putback attempt from Okongwu, but just did a nice job, I think, keeping the ball in front. And I thought after Trae Young kind of threw him a couple of curveballs with he's going to mix in the floater, and he also has the lob pass comes from the same arm angle, the same look. It really is the Major League Baseball playoffs are going on. They talk all the time now about pitchers that have the same arm angle, the same release, but throw different pitches with different spins off of that. And Trae kind of has that with how he manipulates in the pick and roll. It can really wait to the absolute last second before either taking his patented floater or throwing a lob to Clint Capella or Okongwu 2 feet above the rim. So super impressive effort by Richards and DSJ. But Maledon coming on and making some plays. He had a floater at one point in time. James Bouknight having hands down. He was still 3-9 shooting, but by default. Hands down. He scored his first points tonight. But the shot making looked a little bit better. And again, the little pocket pass he had to Richards was solid. So there's probably a lot of different ways we could go with it. But Spencer, anything you want to add in here to get things rolling?
Every deep playoff run starts with building an amazing team. Doing the same for your business doesn't take a room full of scouts. You just need Indeed. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Hate waiting? Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. Something I love about Indeed is that it makes hiring all in one place so easy because with virtual interviews, Indeed saves you time. You can message, schedule, and interview top talent all in one place. Indeed knows that when you're growing your business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why when you sponsor a job, you only pay for quality applications from resumes in our database matching your job description. Visit Indeed.com/Blue Wire to start hiring today. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Full disclosure, I only saw the second half of this game, and this is really the only thing I have to add. I'm just so refreshed that this team has they have an identity. You watch them play defense, and not only that, but there's actual athletes and length on this roster, in my opinion, that Steve Clifford's tapping into. And I think it's super refreshing. You just watch games, we've only seen 3, but you watch it and it's really freaking hard to get the ball to the paint against this team so far. It's just hard, and part of that is because they're so conservative and they're so, on their heels and guarding the paint. But the other part is that they're very well organized and they're in gaps and they help the helper, the other part is Steve Clifford, he's back. And So I don't know. I when I watched the second half tonight, that's the one thing I took away. The Hawks and they have a lot of outside shooting firepower, but that ball touched the paint hardly ever. Like I mean, I could count on my hand fingers wise. Like I don't have enough fingers on one hand to count. Like the ball didn't get to the paint very often at all. And I do think that's going to be, at least I hope, it's going to be a personality of this team. And I think it's really refreshing.
They like their best paint touches came early. Like right at the first 7 minutes of the game, it was like, whoa, okay, Charlotte can't keep the ball in front. Trey and DeJounte are touching the paint whenever they want to. And then it really was like Trey picked up his third foul. Nate McMillan pulled him out of the game. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he picked up his next foul until, basically when the game was out of hand in the fourth quarter. But their offense just went into the can for a while. Charlotte made its run. And that extended stretch between late in the first quarter, till midway through the second quarter, whenever it was, when Trey sat, all of a sudden, Charlotte's defense, I thought, really, really turned up in those moments overall. And then would also just mention, and if you want to piggyback off this, Richie, go for it. If you want to take it in another direction, by all means. But Gordon Hayward, not the flashiest of games, 31 minutes, 12 points. He was, in terms of Charlotte, ended up being a zero with him on the court in terms of plus minus with him on the court. 4 turnovers, which is sort of out of the norm for him. But without Terry Rozier, without LaMelo Ball, and obviously Cody Martin too, but basically without your top 2 ball handlers, obviously Maldon, DSJ, those guys really stepped up. Book Knight had moments on the ball, and they're also using the front court. I mean, hell, they're using Nick Richards as an elbow hub on 1 or 2 possessions in this game. I mean, he's Mason Plumlee or whatever. You know what I mean?
But the offense it's running out of the elbow right now.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Regardless of the big that's in the game, as far as I can tell, the offense is kind of running from there.
Yeah, they're definitely mixing it in a fair amount. And when LaMelo comes back, that'll probably dial down a little bit, but it'll certainly be a part of the package. It was in years past, as maybe more at the start of last season and less down the stretch with Plumlee. But to Hayward, I thought the DeAndre Hunter, Gordon Hayward battle was one of the fun games within the game of this contest.
It hurt my heart. It did. Yeah, it really did. I thought
DeAndre did awesome in this. You know what I mean? I thought he did really well. Gordon got him on a couple, and down the stretch started to make some plays. Had 5 assists in this game, but Hunter was just a dog guarding the ball.
But
in
BG,
this contest, man.
Let's because I feel like it's we need 3 games in. We need to talk about Gordon Hayward. He has been amazing. Through 3 games, whatever, I'm not sure it'll continue. We've talked about he won't play a lot again, all this stuff, but my goodness, that guy has been so freaking good through 3 games. He is the reason, in my opinion, Charlotte's 2-1.
I think the biggest thing with him too is the movement. Obviously, just knowing that he's agile enough, he can move without hesitation coming off the injury. And his physicality, you see it on a night-to-night basis, and you would think that a guy that has gone through so many injuries in his career that somehow he would back away from that physicality. But you saw it again tonight, as Brian was alluding to. Him and Hunter just went at each other. He would often initiate the contact and lower his shoulder into Hunter. I think he kind of got away with one. I think it was in the first half where they called the foul on Hunter when it probably should have been on Hayward. But yeah, there's nothing new in this game with Hayward. He did a good job of drawing in defenders, being patient, distributing to his teammates. He had a nice little dump-off pass to DSJ in the dunker spot in the third quarter. I think a couple possessions later, the ball swung around from side to side. He got it, and he kept his defender on the back, and he made a pass to the corner for McDaniels for a 3. Mm-hmm. And like Brian said, he did have a couple of turnovers early, and for the most part, it took him a while to kind of pick up his game. But I do want to draw attention to that one shot that he hit in the first half. Spencer, you might have missed this, but he had a double clutch shot. He was in midair.
Yeah.
It almost looks like your screen. Like
I think maybe
yeah.
Was that the one on the baseline?
No, he was coming towards the elbow. But yeah, I mean, he was coming. I guess he was coming from the baseline to the elbow spot and like double clutched it. Like I just don't think people realize how hard that shot is to make.
That's what he did on the first play this season against San Antonio.
That's true too.
When he curled off the little veer action and Keldon Johnson was right there. But yeah, he did the same thing where he double clutched and hit the shot. Like not a lot of guys can do that. I will say too, like I feel like you can always trust Gordon, and I don't think there were a lot of Gordon getting Trae Young on a switch and going to work, which has been something that's worked in the past over the last two seasons when these two rosters have gone up against one another. Look, I thought Trae did some amazing stuff in this game offensively for Atlanta, and you could tell he went into Trae mode in the third quarter. It was like, all right, I'm just gonna start drawing fouls. Like, and he did it. Like he was just initiating contact all over the court. He is also a target, out there, and for opposing offenses to go after, no matter what. He is. And I thought Charlotte's like guard to guard screening actions and little flips and handoff exchanges, they just poked at it here and there, like just enough. And then that started to just create advantage, and then they were able to build off of it. They moved the ball. Guys cut really, really well. I mean, there was even one possession midway through the third quarter where Atlanta was making a little bit of a mini run. Steve Clifford called a timeout. The after timeout play, they ran horns action. I can't remember if it was Plumlee or Richards caught the ball at the elbow. But this is something they did on James Borrego, where like on the weak side, they look like they're going to run a staggered screen for the guy coming out of the corner. And instead, the strong side guy in the corner, which on this possession was Oubre, that dude starts walking his defender up, which it may have even been Trae Young, who had the Oubre assignment a fair amount in this game. And then he just slips right back door on the after timeout call and got dimed up for a layup. And like that's one of those times where that's Steve Clifford. I think a lot of coaches would have sort of read the room and been like, okay, I got to call a timeout here. He did that, and then was able to get them a go-to kind of bread and butter after timeout play. And I mean, like that's a win for him as a coach. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's just good coaches can do simple stuff like that and check. So I want to give him props for that. Richie, am I right that we have a speaker that we want to go to?
Yeah, we do have a speaker, Matt S., if you want to unmute yourself and give us your thoughts or question.
Hey, guys. I mean, yeah, this that game with all the injuries to the backcourt, that Dennis Smith Jr., I mean, you guys talked about that was kind of a quiet, last-minute signing, didn't know what to expect, but he's one of these, Clifford, has been known for these veteran reclamation projects, and whatever they've gotten, done with him, he was just here for a short time in the off season, but it was just a great pickup, and he come in, and be the starter. He's playing great defense. I mean, that guy, that's not what he, coming out highly touted lottery pick, a scorer, not known for his defense, and credit to him. He's really, beefed up that part of the game. And Nick Richards, early candidate, most improved player through 3 games. A few years ago with, Devontae Graham kind of had no, not even a rotation piece, going from that to a guy that's just a big contributor. And I'm sorry to disappoint you guys. I know your season previews talked about a tank is going to happen. That's not happening.
Yeah.
Clifford, everything that went wrong this offseason, by dumb luck, they might have ended up with the best coach that they could for this team. And Clifford, I mean, he always gets the absolute most he can out of his teams. He usually, exceeds expectations. And I think he's going to do that with this team too.
Thank you very much for those comments. I mean, they were all very, very good and got me thinking about some things. Like most improved player, Nick Richards. I wasn't thinking about that, but that's actually, because I saw Brian nod too. Like that's a really good one. I was thinking about it today, and you watch the NFL, and every single week you're like, why does this happen? Why does this team beat this team and this team beat this team? I think the NBA because they have 82 games, things tend to equal themselves out. Like, I still think the Hornets probably win 30 games, maybe less. But it's really fun to see early in the season, some of the younger players. Book Knight had a really good one tonight, which is obviously a breath of fresh air for all Hornets fans. But like Nick Richards, who Matt just brought up, is, I mean, good Lord. This guy, like, it doesn't seem like a fluke at all, right? Like, this seems like an NBA player, like a guy that's really going to be a contributor for a long time in the NBA and hopefully a long time in Charlotte. So, yeah, no, great comments. And I am, of course, a little bit torn that we're 2-1. But how can you not kind of fall in love with this team through 3 games? Because they play hard, they play their ass off. They're what I would say, they're way more coordinated and organized and on a string defensively than I would have never guessed this was going to be the case. Even under Steve Clifford, who I knew would get them there, I would never have guessed he would get them there this quickly. Yeah,
it's a great point. I do think what Richards is doing is sustainable because, like, he's the captain of do your job team. Like, the guy comes in, he plays his role, he screens, he dives. He hits the offensive glass. It's one of those things where I suppose teams could start to.
He owns the rim right now.
But it's just like he's not a guy that you necessarily like game plan for, because it's like what he does is he screens and dives and like plays hard at the rim. It's not like, I mean, again, Charlotte's mixing him in a little bit as like an elbow passer, but it's like, they're not the plays they run for Nick Richards to finish it. They're just pick and roll. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, if you want to roll more attention in his direction, that's fine. But then that means the shooter is open on the opposite wing. Like, I
think the part that surprises me, BG, is he kind of owns the rim space right now. Like he is the alpha in that space, like pretty consistently. And that has surprised me.
And not even just off the rolls. I think you're probably speaking to the offensive rebounds too. It just seems like he's always around the ball. The 50-50 situations, like he's getting to those balls. And I do kind of wonder what would have happened if Kenny Atkinson was the Hornets coach at this point and how different it would be with Clifford. Obviously, there's a lot of dominoes that took place this offseason that have changed the direction of this team. But Clifford is definitely getting these players to buy in, as you're talking about, Spencer. And one player I do want to mention before we wrap here, and I know you guys are probably harder on him than I am, is Kelly Oubre. I really liked the process from Oubre offensively tonight and just this whole season. Like, he was missing shots early in this game, and, whether it was at the rim or whether it was from deep, but they weren't necessarily like ill-advised shots by any means. He just was missing. And I think he finally started to convert as the game went along, which was a good reward for him. Like I said, I've mentioned this before. We've mentioned this before. He has changed his profile a little bit on the offensive end in terms of getting to the rim when necessary, while also taking 3-point shots within the flow of the offense. There are some shots that he takes that you still kind of like roll your eyes at, but sometimes they still go in, type of deal. That's just always going to be Kelly Oubre. And, I know Brian has talked about his defensive lapses sometimes, but to me, I haven't looked at every single defensive possession, but it feels like he's a little bit more locked in than he has been in previous seasons.
He did have one play today before the ship sort of turned for Charlotte, where in the first quarter, Trae Young, pick and roll, empty corner, he drifted, he dribbled baseline. I believe Kelly was guarding DeJounte Murray, I think is whom it was. Or maybe it was Collins, but whoever it was, they relocated to the opposite corner. Oubre didn't see it and then fouled them on the 3-point attempt, and then they made the shot. So it was a 4-point play. So, Kelly still has his off-ball issues, but right. He and everyone else on the team, at least for the time being, has done a nice job buying into the concepts of where to be, doing their jobs, defending, 5, 10, 15% better than you probably would expect them to. And what that does as far as just sort of like raising the floor of a defense, I guess I knew Charlotte was going to try to do all these things and that Clifford would try to do all these things. I just didn't think they would work quite as well as we've seen through 3 games. So we'll see where it goes from here. But man, I mean, to win a game on the road against what seems like a good team without 2 of your top 5 players probably, in LaMelo and Terry Rozier is like, that's not nothing. So, and it does, I mean, you know, I also think in the last couple of days, the franchise, you know, whether they're saying this because it's October 23rd or this is just what you have to do in terms of public facing stuff or whatever, but like everything out of the team has been like, we're winning games. Like we're trying to like they're not making any mistake about that. Even some of the stuff that, you know, Charlotte media has published recently has said that you know, right now they're not even hinting at this. So we'll see. We'll see where things look like in 2 weeks or whatever. But I do think there have been some decent in terms of like, you know, obviously you're happy to see them play well. At the end of the day, like you want to watch good basketball, and through 3 games, they've played good basketball in the regular season so far. And I think along with that, it's not just like, you know, middle of the road veterans that are doing it. There's some growth from some young guys and some young guards like Maldon and DSJ that Charlotte found. And then a guy like Richards, who's been in the program for 3 years now. So I think that matters as well. By the way, JT Thor, 6 rebounds, and he had a nasty chase down block, I think, on DeJounte Murray as well. So I think maybe he gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. But I thought JT had some decent moments. He had a 3 today as well. So another, you know, I don't know. He's further, obviously, like Richards is the headliner, but some of the other younger guys on the roster found, at least in smaller ways, opportunities to contribute as well.
Well, real quickly on the Oubre thing, you know, I think we were all very much aligned on him preseason and at the very beginning. Yeah, he's been great offensively. Like, look, he's been attacking the basket. He's been better off the dribble than I could have ever imagined. He's been playing harder just in general than I would have thought. But, you know, I still like, that's a situation where the bottom's going to fall out pretty quickly, in my opinion. I still stand by that, but he's an expiring contract. Okay. So this is a good thing for Charlotte. Like, you know, the more tradable he becomes, the better it all is. So, you know, it's for Charlotte, there's not really much you can lose here. Yeah, in terms of the team, like, it's been so fun through 3 games. It really has. Like, even the New Orleans game.
Even the New Orleans game.
Yeah, I didn't catch that live. Like, I didn't even get to see the whole thing, like, in replay. But, I mean, they're just competitive. They really are. And they have a script. They stick to it. You know, it feels like a very well-organized team, you know, and you don't find that as often as you would maybe think in professional sports in general. But this, you know, that's Steve Clifford's, that's his mo, right? Like, he is organized, and he's going to get his guys to play a certain way. Whether or not you agree with the way that they play, that's another conversation. But, like, they're going to be organized. They're going to be hard to beat. And, you know, does that play out for the Hornets this year with the way maybe they should go? We'll see. But I tell you what, if this team is 6-4, 11-7, you know, something like this, when LaMelo is out, like when the whole team is ready to go, I will be very, very interested in where this goes. And I kind of think that that's where this is going, because you look at these bench guys. I mean, seriously, Dennis Smith, Jalen McDaniel, like, this team is serious. They're not here to lay down. They are here to win games, and I think they've proven that earlier. So I'm like a little nervous, but Also very excited about the season.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well, honestly. Like, I want to enjoy the good games, but there's just a lot of ways this thing can go. So, yeah.
Like, you got to pull for winning, right? Like,
yeah, you have to. At the end of the day.
But you also know what is needed. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it speaks a lot to Cliff and what he's been able to do. Obviously, we keep prefacing it by saying it's been 3 games and 3 games only, but the team just looks keyed in. So I think that speaks a lot to what Clifford has been doing. But go ahead, Brian.
Just two things real quickly. One number from this game, which is that this is from PBP stats. The average distance on Charlotte's 2-point field goal attempts in this game, 5.16 feet from the rim. Atlanta's 7.1 feet from the rim. So again, Charlotte, mostly Richards, but they dominated the rim. To have an average 2-point attempt distance, 2 feet closer than Atlanta. The Trae Young floaters, all that sort of stuff, against drop, like that's going to influence that, whatever, but still pretty impressive. And then the second thing was just going to be another PJ Washington step back 3 that he hit in this game to start the second half. He had another strong drive and finish late in the fourth quarter too. So I just think, you don't see a ton of it. It's only a couple possessions every game, but some of the on-ball stuff from PJ, it's early, but those signs are encouraging as well.
And there was one play in the first half, I think it was the first half, where it's obviously not going to show up on any highlights because it ended in a turnover, but he made this nice jab step against Jalen Johnson, I believe he was guarding, and just completely left him in the dust. It was good to see, and I think that he is improving his on-the-ball type of skills, and the step back stuff that you're talking about is great to see. That PBP website, by the way, anyone that's listening, it's the best. To me, it's my favorite NBA website, but it's the worst looking website by far.
but I'll live with it. And by the way, if you can, it's run off a Patreon site. I've donated money in the past. It's an outstanding resource for NBA, especially now that the season gets rolling, and all the video that they have synced up with stuff there. It's just an unbelievable resource.
Well, I was just going to say, shout out Jalen Johnson. Man, forgot about the guy. But, ex-Duke player. He's still hanging around. Maybe we'll be a contributor one day. We'll see.
I think he's on paper to have maybe too big of a role with this team. You look around and it's I like Jalen, and I thought he was a good pick for Atlanta where they got him, but it's this team's trying to win now, and I mean, I don't know. That's just a big question mark at the backup forward spot for them, in my opinion. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if this roster, the pieces move around a little bit between now and the end of the season.
All right, let's end on this real quickly, no thought to it. Just give me, through the first week of basketball here, obviously today is Sunday, give me your top 3, performers for the Hornets over these first 3 games. If you were to just, you don't have to rank them, just give me the top 3.
I mean, yeah, Gordon, obviously, in my opinion, has to be number 1. Nick Richards.
Okay.
It seems like an obvious number 2. You could probably interchange those. I guess number 3 now. You're just throwing it at me.
This is where I'm debating.
Yeah.
Is it Rozier, even though he's only played 2 games? Is it DSJ?
Yeah, I honestly, I wasn't even thinking Rozier. I think I'm going to go DSJ here. The Hornets, they have been a team that's 2-1 because of Nick Richards, obviously, who's been on the roster, but DSJ, they've kind of been just plaqued together, right? Just built, out of nowhere, you get DSJ, who is a top 10 draft pick, and a very, very athletic player, and you get him in Charlotte, and you're okay, cool. Will he make the team? He makes the team, and now it's holy moly, this guy's a real contributor. That's been the real surprise for me on this team. I did not think he was I thought he'd bring something on one side of the floor, but he's been a plus on both sides. He puts a little bit of pressure on the rim. He's making shots, And he is a real, like, and I said this the other night when we recorded, like, he is a real ball pressure difference maker. Like, he is defensively. Like, he is maybe the best ball pressure defensive player on this roster right now.
Yeah, I think he is. And he did good work on Trae Young at times in this game, guarding the point of attack. The thing that I've been so impressed with him defensively are the off-ball digs that he has. Like, I was rewatching some of the San Antonio game earlier today. He had one.
It's the perfect system for him, right? He's able to get into gaps and, like, explore those opportunities.
He had like Vassell drove, and I mean, like, he did something to Devin Vassell that Devin Vassell usually does to other guys. Or, like, Smith was like, "Nope, you're too close to me. Like, I'm gonna just." And they ended up scoring it as a block, but it was like he dug in. Like, Vassell, like, he got a piece of the ball. Vassell, like, ripped it up and then tried to shoot it. And then Smith just, like, then placed his hands on top and blocked the shot. Ran out in transition, and Gordon got fouled. And I've just been like, it is. Like, I covered Dennis when he was at NC State. That was not a good season, obviously, but you could see the flashes of his athleticism. And he is a special athlete at the point guard spot in terms of his vertical leaping ability, the quick hands. He could never put it all together throughout his career in the NBA. And, like, we got a ways to go, obviously, but he played well in the preseason. And so far through 3 games, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if by tomorrow he's leading the league in steal percentage. Like, he was top 5 entering today. Again, it's silly to do this when everyone's played 3 games or whatever. But, like, he's been getting it in a bunch of different ways. And it's not like highlight chasing and gambling. Like, he's gapped up solid, and when he's guarding the ball at the point of attack, like, he's been frisky. So my 3, Richie, to answer your question, I would say Hayward, Richards, and then, you really can go with this in any direction. It's probably Rozier. You can make a case for DSJ. I'll say PJ Washington. I just think he's been solid for Charlotte. He had another good game today. He's doing his job defensively, and he's hitting shots in a couple of different ways and making plays for others. So I'll say PJ just because of the two-way versatility and shooting from him.
Yeah, so my 3 are the same as you, Spencer. DSJ, Richards, and Hayward. There's not much more to add to that, and I'll just kind of keep it short and sweet, but it's funny. I knew Brian was going to go PJ. I think we should have a challenge where BG has to go the whole podcast without mentioning PJ, and maybe I have to go the whole podcast without mentioning Hayward. So
good luck. good luck. We'll have the Kelly Oubre hour coming to you next week on BuzzBeat. We really didn't do much PJ today until the end here, but.
We'd love a sponsor. So if anybody's listening, you want to sponsor this? Just holler.
Get in here. But anyways, Richie, I'll let you close it out. But just heck of a win today. The Hornets play. They're off for 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, but back in action Wednesday, New York.
Yep. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap here. We appreciate Matt S. for taking the time to speak to us today and share his comments. We always appreciate listeners jumping in and getting at least one speaker request every time we do one of these is kind of our goal. So for Spencer, for BG, I am Richie. Take care.